Hello and welcome to Video Game Hangover. I'm Randy Dickinson and I'm in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania.
Hello, it's me, DJ Ross. I'm in Mountain View, California.
It's a me, DJ Ross.
It's a me.
Chris Pratt.
No, you're thinking of that other guy.
Yeah. Each week here on Video Game Hangover, we talk about the games that have been keeping us up at night. This week, we're playing Paradise Marsh and Tinykin. And DJ Spooky Saturdays continue with Chilla's Art, the convenience store, and the radio station.
Ooh, spooky.
A spooky convenience store.
It's pretty spooky. I know we're like a week before Halloween, or like 2 weeks. I lost track of the number of weeks there are in October, but I'm told Halloween is still at the end of all of them, so We're getting there eventually.
It's on a Monday this year, so it's a weird sort of place for it to land, yeah.
That's lame.
Yeah. Yeah.
You want that Friday Halloween.
Fridays are the best Halloween.
Yeah. I don't know what the Monday Halloween means. That just sounds kind of like, disappointing.
Yeah. It means you and I get to spend Halloween together this year because we record on Mondays. So
Ooh, are we doing a Halloween show?
The Halloween show will have come out already. So
True.
What will we be doing? We'll be doing sort of the post-Halloween Extra Life preview show.
Oh, we have to do like a completely straight, non-spooky show on Halloween?
Yeah.
That's going to be weird.
It's sad. Or we could just stretch Halloween into 2 weeks. A 2-week long spooky Halloween celebration.
I don't know. As much as I enjoy Halloween and just all of spooky month, I feel like Halloween, or the time frame in which you can celebrate Halloween, drops off real fast compared to other holidays.
Yeah. Well, I mean, considering like Target has Christmas trees up the day after Labor Day.
Yes, yeah. But it's like, sure, leave the Christmas decorations up for a few weeks, but it's November 1st, better be taking those spooky pumpkins down because it's just the season has passed.
Yeah, people get over it real quick.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's the fun part about Halloween, though, is it's sort of this special little isolated thing. Like if it was every day, if Halloween was, as Ministry said, every day, it would not be nearly as fun. It's special because it's limited, because it's brief and then it disappears.
Yes, exactly. Yes. The ephemerality of the whole thing, it just increases your appreciation of it when it's here.
I mean, if every day of your life was just like a Castlevania game, it wouldn't feel so special anymore.
God, that'd be a nightmare. That'd be the worst.
Whipping bats and skeletons chasing you. And
every time you turn a corner, there's another flying Medusa head.
It's like, oh my God, how many Draculas are there?
Usually just one, at least. That's
enough, really.
Yeah, that's all you need.
Yeah. So no, I get it. I feel like, there should be a strict line in the sand when you move on to the next thing.
Right.
Yeah.
So we could get started on our Thanksgiving show.
Right. Our all of our favorite Thanksgiving video games.
Man, I was going to ask you, are there any? But we can get into that on Halloween, apparently.
No, I don't know. I can't really think of any Thanksgiving video games. We used to do a, like, what are you thankful for in gaming episode? And then I think we ran out of things.
We're all thankful for Halloween games was the problem.
We were no longer thankful for anything related to gaming. So
yeah.
I'm not sure. Well, and then I was the voice of sort of blind consumerism, and we used to do like a "What do I want for Christmas" episode.
We can still do that.
Yeah. Do you still give a Christmas list to anybody? Do your parents still go, DJ, what do you want for Christmas?
No, I mean, nothing especially specific. It's more like general guidelines at this point. And my general guidelines are like consumables. not like it sounds like I'm asking for drugs.
Stuff like that.
Health kits, yes.
Yeah.
give me a med kit and some body armor.
Right.
That's what I want.
All the important consumables.
No, I just like, food and like beverages are always fun. And it's just like, eventually it's just like, it's done. It's consumed. It's not taking up space in my apartment anymore.
It's usually the conversation with my parents at this point is, do you need anything for the house? Do you need anything for the dogs? I'm like, well, I want toys. Give me toys.
Toys. Yeah, sure.
Yeah, I want a PlayStation, and I want to, I want to somehow relive that feeling again. Yeah.
Did you ask him for a PlayStation this year? It's a little early, actually, to get into Christmas list. Maybe we should table this.
Although I've arrived at a point. No. I've arrived at a point where my mom is boycotting Christmas. This will be year 4. It started with the pandemic, obviously. Is this year 4? No, it was pre-pandemic then. And
wow.
So this will be the 4th
ahead
year.
Of the curve.
Yeah, where she's like, we're not doing Christmas. We're gonna. In fact, they're going away. I think they're going to Florida or Vegas or someplace very
boarding up the house.
Decidedly un-Christmas. Yeah. They're a little older. The winters in the Northeast are especially brutal. So I don't blame them. And it's a lot. I mean, between me and extended family and stepbrothers and sisters and all of their assorted children, a Christmas or a Thanksgiving thing can be quite an undertaking. Yeah. And if I was my mom and I had a say in it, I don't think I would do it. I think I would just go, nope, don't come here.
Don't go over here.
Which is pretty much how it's going. Yeah.
I like that. I can appreciate that.
Yeah, I'm a fan.
My family's done like a really low-key Thanksgiving. I mean, partially also because of the pandemic for the last few years. But even before that, sometimes we would just decide, like, this year for Thanksgiving, we'll just go out to a restaurant or something.
Yeah.
And not have to, slave away in the kitchen all day.
We've done that.
Better for everybody.
We used to do, and again, I grew up in the Northeast, so we used to do Thanksgiving, or Christmas, sorry. We used to do Chinese food on Christmas quite a bit. To avoid the grind of having to, make a 17-course dinner for a bunch of people. So it's basically the Jewish Christmas.
Yeah, I'm a huge proponent of doing things like celebrating holidays and events shifted from when everybody else is celebrating.
Yeah.
You just avoid all the hassle and stress that way.
I agree. Absolutely.
So you heard it here first, I guess. No Christmas show this year. But we're still on for Halloween.
What I heard, DJ, is we're going to do a Christmas show, but we're going to do it in January.
January. Oh, man.
We're just going to time shift it.
Going to be a lot of confused people getting Christmas lists from us, though.
Right. This is true. Yeah. Make sure they're postmarked by January 5th.
Right. Okay. What month is it? Are we talking about spooky games?
It is October. We should talk about Extra
October.
Life. Extra Life is coming. That is a date that we cannot time shift.
Unfortunately.
Yeah. Coming up on Saturday, November 5th. DJ
we
and I
tried to one year and it didn't work out that well.
No, it was terrible. It was not good. So we just play along with everybody else. This is the 24-hour gaming marathon to support Children's Miracle Network hospitals. We would love for you to help keep us awake. We would love for you to donate to the cause if you're so willing. We would love for you to play co-op video games with us. We're assembling a bit of a list of fun things we hopefully can get some folks to jump into with us. Like what, DJ? What are some of the games on the list?
Oh, I have an exciting co-op announcement, but I think that will be next week.
Oh.
Are we talking about co-op games right now, or are we talking about anything?
Anything. And what's on your Extra Life want to play list for this year?
I have a few things. So one is, where is my list? One is The Planet Crafter, which is sort of a space base building and survival game, which I've been meaning to play for a while, so I'm excited to finally dig into it on Extra Life. But what I've been excited about recently is every year during the marathon I pick kind of a retro game to try and get through, or not get through, but just go back and experience. And I was having some trouble figuring out, like, what should it be this year? I think last year I played Sonic the Hedgehog.
Oh.
Which was fun. But I realized that the answer for this year's game was just right under my nose the whole time. I have decided to play The Adventure of Link, which would be Zelda 2.
Oh, there you go.
And I have not played this for probably, I don't know, since I was a little kid, which was a long time ago at this point.
Oh.
So it's going to be interesting.
You have quite a reverence for this game, right? This is I think people sort of condescend to Zelda 2 quite a bit, but you're a fan.
Oh, they hate it. They hate it. I mean, it's very divisive.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say it's universally hated, but it's probably the least popular Zelda game.
It's misunderstood.
It's misunderstood. Yeah, it's like, it's a platformer / action RPG in a way that all the other Zelda games are not. But this was the first Zelda game I ever played. It was how I was introduced to Link and all the, his cohorts and everybody. So it should be a lot of fun going back, and we'll see how it goes.
Cool. Yeah, I've definitely played my quota of retro games for the year, so I'm good on that.
Yeah. Got a lot of that out of the way during the backlog attack.
Yeah, I'm covered until January 1st. So, but yeah, I definitely, I want to do like do some dailies in Animal Crossing and do an island tour. I will definitely stream that so people can see what's going on in year 3 of my island. I want to play some Slay the Spire. I think that always streams really well, and it's fun to come back to that really rusty and try to see if I can juice up a little bit of that old magic. And
so you remember what all the cards do?
I think hopefully maybe it's been a while. Like this is probably the longest break in me playing Slay the Spire. So it'll be interesting to jump back into that cold. Yeah, what else? I definitely want to play some Splatoon 3. I have quite an itch for that game. Have played a ton of that lately. And yeah, maybe some other fun stuff. You and I have some things we're planning.
Oh yeah, we have plans.
Yeah.
Which will be revealed as the date gets ever closer. Man, it's coming up soon.
Yeah. So we'll continue to hype it here on the show, but in the meantime, you can certainly go to VGHangover.com/extra-life for some details and some information on how to donate, how to support us. You can go to twitch.tv/VGHangover and add us to your little favorites list. We will be streaming all day on that channel. And that is also where DJ streams Spooky Saturdays.
Ooh. That's right.
Yeah. You don't have to wait for Saturday, November 5th for that. That is coming up this Saturday, not quite right before Halloween, but the week before Halloween.
Yeah. I feel like I'll just say I've gotten really carried away with it this year. Like usually we'll play a spooky game for Halloween and then I'll do something during Extra Life. But I mentioned last week, I've just got this whole list of spooky games that I want to get through now. And again, we're just running out of weekends in October, so
yeah,
need to figure out how this is going to work.
I want our listeners to appreciate the amount of effort that you've put into this list of video games that you want to play, because it is it's a Google Doc. It's color coded by desire.
It's a spreadsheet. That's all you need to say. It's already
by desire to play it. Yeah, force ranked by length and et cetera, and an assortment of other details. Yeah, DJ put a lot of work and love into this, so yeah, it warms my cold black heart to see him so into Halloween.
Yeah, well, I don't know what it is. It feels like, now might as well be the time to play all these spooky games.
Cool. So, do you want to start with Chilla's art?
Oh, should we start with it?
Yeah.
Should we start with the spooky games? We got all the other show business out of the way.
Give the people what they want.
That's why they listen to this. So that's all they got, all the spooky games they need. Oh man. Where to begin with Chilla's art? So
who's Chilla?
Chilla, it's like, it's a little hard for me to even say. So as far as I know, Chilla's art is the developer. It's like a small Japanese indie developer, which I think is just 2 brothers. They could have more people on the staff. It seems like that seems likely, given the amount of output they have. But hard to find a lot of information about these guys. At least during my very cursory research in coming up with all these games.
In the 8 seconds before the show that you Googled it.
Right. Well, a little longer than 8 seconds, but...
Okay, good.
Anyway. So last week I played Yomawari, which was kind of a cutesy horror game with cartoon characters in it. And I felt like, this seems like my speed. This week, I did the opposite of that. Somebody recommended these games under the Chilla's art sort of banner, I suppose. They recommended this whole long list. And sure enough, I went to Steam to check them all out. And they've got like 15 or 20 games on there, all from this little tiny developer.
Oh, wow.
And they all look like these. I mean, just looking at screenshots, they look like shots out of some creepy Japanese horror movie where you're like out in the middle of the forest at night, and or you're in some otherwise undesirable environment, and it just looks like some creepy little girl's going to pop out of a well or something and try and chase you. And they all have this very kind of photorealistic aesthetic, maybe with a little like VHS artifacting mixed in. But just looking through the screens of these, they look terrifying. And I just thought, well, I probably shouldn't play these. These look way too intense. But it is spooky month, and it was spooky Saturday, so I decided, why not? Let's just give it a shot and see how these go.
Yeah, good for you.
Oh, thank you. So the ones I ended up settling on were, so first of all, like I said, they have a lot of these on Steam. They're all like under 2 hours long, or at least the ones that I read up on seem to fall within 1 to 2 hours playtime. So that's kind of cool in itself, in that they're just like these little spooky, like short stories almost that you can get through in one sitting.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah. It's good for a spooky Saturday, and also it's nice that I can get into these and it's like kind of a light commitment, because I thought there's still a very real chance that this would go very wrong and I would not be able to make it through. Like, I don't know.
I have
picture
regrets.
Horror games. A lot of regrets. You know, if you think of like a Silent Hill or Resident Evil, those are like 10 to 15 hours long, depending on how quickly you get through those.
Yeah.
But definitely not like a one sitting, like one afternoon thing. And I didn't really know what to expect from these other than, the screenshots look terrifying. And just like going off other information in the Steam descriptions was also not especially helpful or descriptive in terms of what type of horror to expect. Like, are there going to be lots of jump scares? I don't know. Is there going to be some creepy monster just stalking you the whole time? I don't know that either. So that might have been the most terrifying part of it, was just going into these and not really having any idea what I was getting myself into. But anyway, so I still took the plunge. I started out with this one called The Convenience Store, which just kind of hilariously innocuous. The Steam thumbnail is just a shot of a convenience store at night, which, not especially creepy.
As promised, yeah.
When it's the title of the game and it's like all in red, it's like, oh, something weird about this convenience store. So anyway, in this one, you play as a convenience store employee, as it turns out, who is working the graveyard shift at this convenience store, like outside a really tiny sort of town in Japan. And the game starts out with you in your room getting ready for work. And then you take a walk through this neighborhood, which is like very poorly illuminated. Doesn't seem like, the infrastructure in this town could use a little work. But you eventually make it to the convenience store, and like you check in with the other guy working there. He's just finishing up his shift, and you punch in, and he takes off, and then you start going about your sort of convenience store daily tasks that the manager has given you. And then things start to happen. I don't know how much I should give away describing this, but basically it's not like a survival horror game where monsters are popping out of doors and you're having to conserve ammo or anything. It's more like you're just in this creepy situation.
Is it a monster situation?
It's not really. Like the thing, sort of the central spookiness in the convenience store is that at on your first shift, a delivery guy comes in and he says, "Oh, I got a box for you," like for you, not for the store for some reason. And inside it is a videotape. And you go back to your place and you watch this creepy videotape. I won't get into detail about what's on the tape, but that becomes sort of the central mystery. It's like, what's going on with these tapes? So why do I keep getting these tapes while I'm at work? And it turns into this sort of like, I don't know, more of a psychological horror thing, more than like monsters jumping out at you. It's like there's this weird creepy mystery, and some of it, for whatever reason, is starting to like bleed into my real life and job outside of these tapes or whatever. So it's more like it's just unsettling for an hour and a half.
Atmospheric.
It's very atmospheric, yeah, because like I said, it's all in first person. It was really exciting to get into this with zero expectations because it just kind of lets your imagination go nuts.
Sure.
Probably for the worse. Because you get to your shift and it's just you in the store and it's all very like brightly lit, which is like kind of sinister in this context. But you're just walking around the store by yourself and you can go into the office and look at the little security cameras. You can there are 4 or 5 security cameras around the store. You can swap between them, which is also just really unsettling because it's like, what's going to show up on these cameras unexpectedly? Sure. Or like, is this going to be somebody standing right behind me once I stop looking at these? I don't know. Sometimes like people will come into the store and you'll hear the little like the ding of the doors opening, and that can be also unsettling if you're in a different area of the store. You can't see what's just come in. So, if you have an active imagination or if you're just paranoid about getting jump scared, then this game is very effective.
Sure. I mean, and you go into it thinking, this is a horror game. I keep waiting to be horrified, right? So,
right.
Yeah, no part of you thought this was going to be a farming sim or anything like that. So,
yeah, not at all.
You went into it with sort of the appropriate expectations.
Yeah, I was kind of thinking, like, how much of this game is going to be about working in a convenience store, about like doing tasks and everything, or is that just sort of the window dressing? Because this team has done so many of these, and they all feel like, again, I've only played 2 at this point, but it seems like they are just sort of different settings for kind of a spooky adventure game. Like you go around and pick up clues and notes and things, but it's not like, oh, to make sure I keep the stores or the shelves stocked, or else my pay is going to get docked, or that type of thing.
You have to make spooky coffee every hour.
Yeah, that would be amazing. So you kind of get the atmosphere of a Resident Evil or just survival horror games that I've played in the past without the element of like having to deal with monsters or monsters chasing you or, that kind of stuff that makes them a little more video gamey.
Yeah.
Which was cool because there's always a point in those games, or at least, I don't know, I kind of did enjoy the action elements of those. But the more traditional survival horror slanted ones, I always felt like, I wish there was like either like more action or like less action, I guess, like fewer monsters trying to kill me, because I really enjoyed the atmosphere and sort of the mystery of the whole thing.
Yeah. That's why I was always Team Silent Hill rather than Team Resident Evil.
Oh, yeah. Well, yeah. So wait, so you like that there's less action in Silent Hill?
Yes, yeah. And certainly there is some action in Silent Hill, but yeah, no, I think Silent Hill is super spooky, atmospheric, occasional puzzle solving, and sometimes, you've got to like fight monsters, but mostly it's run away as fast as you can.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's weird. Like when I talk about Resident Evil in like survival horror context, I'm mostly thinking of like Resident Evil 1 and 2 and maybe like a little bit of 3.
Mm-hmm.
Like as soon as 4 came around, that's like a completely different genre.
Sure.
So I don't even consider those survival horror. I don't know how you approach it.
I think I've said on the show before, nothing is scary when you have a machine gun. So I think as soon as the Resident Evil thing went so firmly in the direction of following the STARS team around and everybody was loaded for bear that, some of the the shock factor, the scare factor, the creeping dread of that series went out the window.
Yeah, man, I almost thought about making Resident Evil 4 my retro game for Extra Life, because that's practically a retro game at this point.
Yeah.
But
you can play it on everything, too.
Yeah, maybe next year. Silent Hill has always been, or at least the first 4, I thought were pretty consistent, sort of atmosphere-wise. And also just like in terms of how much action they involved you with.
Yeah, I feel like we're detouring now, but like the radio contrivance in Silent Hill, and obviously so the first game requiring that everything be enshrouded in fog, is you basically moving through the dark, not being able to see very far in front of your face, and just carrying that radio station, which is established pretty early on is reactive to paranormal activity. So you'll start to hear static. And for those who don't know, you'll hear static and stuff coming across the radio. And yeah, again, you still cannot see much more than 3 feet in front of you. So it's, it's this sort of horrifying moment of realizing you have to continue progressing to the next objective, but something lurks in the fog.
Yeah. That was just a brilliant addition to that game.
Yeah, and a way to sort of embrace the technical limitations of the PS1, I thought too. So it's good. It's still effective, I think. I love that part.
Yeah. Okay, so I need to walk back what I said about it recreating the Silent Hill atmosphere, because I think the radio was a little too much for me. Like, the Silent Hill games are really scary.
Oh yeah.
Silent Hill 1 probably my favorite horror game, but it was just terrifying.
Oh yeah, very much so. I mean, it's the beeper thing in Alien, essentially. Beep.
Yeah.
Beep.
Yeah.
Beep. Yeah. So it's that a thing that wouldn't ordinarily be scary, but in a very scary situation.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So I put Chilla's art, or at least these 2 games that I played, like a level down from that, where it's not just like paralyzingly scary, because you're like not really aware if there's a threat nearby, because like for the most part there's nothing really like putting you in danger, but there's always just the chance that like, oh, I wonder if something spooky is going to happen soon.
Sure.
Yeah. There were a few jump scares, but it wasn't anything like, I thought they were actually pretty well done. And I'm, like I've said many times, I'm not a fan of the cheap jump scare. But in this, they were like, okay, you got me with that one. That was good.
Were any of them a screeching cat?
No, I don't think. No, there was no cat.
Good. Excellent. That is the definitive cheap jump scare.
Yeah, I just like jump scares are fine sometimes, but I don't like, you need to have some amount of effort put into them. You can't just have a loud noise every once in a while.
Yeah, I agree.
Because that's very startling, but it's just like there's no like thought put into that.
Yeah. Yeah. Or like smash cut to some horrifying figure in the mirror. You know what I mean? Just you got to earn those scares, guys. You can't just drop them in there.
Yeah. So the convenience store, I'm not going to give away any more of the sort of what happens, but very effective in sort of preserving tension and kind of like escalating it, and without putting you in like mortal danger, probably. And it's only like an hour and a half long, or that's how long it took me to get through it. And then I rolled immediately into the radio station. Just another, just suspiciously innocent sounding title. This one I think I actually enjoyed a little more. You start out and you learn that I think your brother was a radio like DJ, or he was like a talk show host on the radio. And he passed away mysteriously recently. And you take it upon yourself to go up to the radio station and see if you can like drum up some clues as to what happened. And you do this in the middle of the night, of course. Like, I don't know why you would do this. You like live in this sort of, yeah, I guess you do live there. Like your apartment is there, but this little mountain community. You set out in the middle of the night. So it's kind of interesting in that the map, or like the game area, is much larger. So you spend some time driving from different points in your car.
Yeah.
Whereas like the convenience store, like first of all, you're mostly on foot, or you were on foot the entire time, and then a lot of it just happened within this one tiny convenience store. But like in this one, you start out in your apartment and you drive to this radio station, and there are a bunch of other little points of interest on the map that you have to visit along the way as you start to accumulate clues. But I thought the format of this one was really cool because it starts out when you get to the radio station, you listen to, or you find these tapes of your brother's past broadcasts. And then the game becomes about like finding the next tape so you can get the next broadcast in the sequence leading up to the point where like he supposedly killed himself, and just figure out what the circumstances were around it. And it's the same deal as the convenience store, kind of, where there's not really anything like threatening you, but there's always just that feeling that something is out there, and like all the your brother's broadcasts are about. He's like reading off ghost stories that some of the listeners send in, and there's kind of a continuous narrative through those as well. So you're just kind of trying to figure out like what happened to my brother, and also what was up with this person sending in these like ghost stories repeatedly. And yeah, for the most part, it plays out sort of like the adventure portion in any other horror game where you just travel between these different places and solve very rudimentary puzzles to get your next cassette tape, and you take it back to the radio station. So I thought the story in this one was a little more like explicit, in that there are like these defined story beats. But the mystery is much more sort of compelling to me in this one.
Cool. So is there some continuity between the convenience store and the radio station?
I don't think so. At least I don't know if any of these games are like linked together at all. But there were not really any connections as far as I could notice in either of these. Yeah, maybe once I get through the next like 15 or 16, I will start to realize if there's anything going on.
The Chilla's Art continuous universe or whatever. Yeah.
Exactly, yeah. In the 20th one, all the characters will come together and they'll like fight off some ghosts or something like that.
Samuel Jackson's at the end of the first one going, we need to get this team together.
Yeah, that would be incredible. So I had a really good time with both of these. Really good atmosphere, and again, it's just like sort of enough spookiness for me to handle. And I think a lot of that was just like my imagination getting out of hand. Because, like I said, a lot of the time you're just not in danger. I don't know if there were as many jump scares in this one, but I don't want to give away some of the really spooky parts. But needless to say, there were some sections where I would just sort of like make sure I was sitting as far back from my screen as possible.
Awesome.
Yeah, it was really good. If I have any complaints about either of these, it's that. So first of all, there were a lot of puzzles that were fairly simple. There was a puzzle in the convenience store, which I think was actually a really cool puzzle design, but it just wasn't sort of executed well in that I had the solution, or I knew how to find the solution to it, but I just, like, the game was trying to show me the solution, but it made it very difficult to actually read what was going on. It's hard to describe without actually giving away the puzzle.
Yeah.
So I ended up going to a guide for that one because I was just like, okay, I spent too many attempts trying to do this. And also in the radio station, there were some puzzles where it was just not clear that like an object was interactable, or since you spend a lot of time driving around this huge map, there were cases where you would either have to like go back and backtrack because you missed something, or you just didn't notice something, which was a little disappointing because I thought the rest of it was the rest of both of these was so strong. It was kind of disappointing that there were just these little sort of like minor execution details that sort of tripped up the pace of both of these.
Yeah. It seems like the strength of the convenience store would be that it would be sort of relatively confined, and it sounds like the scale of the radio station maybe was a problem.
Yeah. It was like, I really enjoyed the fact that you had to go back and forth between each place, because I would always think like, oh, well, maybe there was a clue I missed or something like that, or maybe something is different about this other place, or I have a new item in my inventory that might be useful now that, like, if I go there a second time. But after like the third or fourth trip back from the radio station to this little like side of the road thing that takes like a couple minutes every time, I just kind of got frustrated with it. But other than that, like those didn't ruin the experience for me or anything. I still had a really good time with both of these. And the most frightening thing maybe about that is I kind of want to play some more of them.
Oh, cool.
There was this other one I had on my list, which was The Night Delivery. And I was reading this Steam description, and it has all the typical stuff like, this contains frightening images and stuff like that. And then there was this one bullet point that said, this game makes it feel like there's somebody behind you. And I was just like, oh, no, thank you. I don't need that. Not at all. But after playing both these, I'm thinking, like, maybe I'll give that one a try. We'll see how that one goes. So anyway, just really cool sort of like short-form horror games that even I can play. So that's exciting.
Neat. These sound and look very cool.
Yeah, I mean, they look great. that's what sort of leads me to believe, like, they must have more than just 2 people working on these, right? Because they're like, they look terrific. I mean, they're not like, cutting edge. They're going to blow up your 30 series card. But they're like extremely effective for what they are. And I think that's largely due to the visuals. And there are a lot of them. So guys are keeping busy for sure. Cool.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I'm looking at screenshots for the one called the bathhouse.
The bathhouse? Is that the most recent one?
It might be. But yeah, again, like you said, photorealistic. Like the level of detail is surprising for such a small team.
Yeah, I think that one was on my list too. But that was at the point where I was just like, I don't know how manageable these are going to be.
Sure.
But now I feel like maybe I'll just play the bathhouse.
Yeah.
These are each a couple years old. Or like the convenience store I think came out in 2020, and then the radio station was about a year old. So I'd be curious to see how much they've progressed since then, to see what the latest one is like.
Cool. And the series here again is called Chilla's Art.
Yeah, they're all on Steam. They're like just a few bucks. I think they have a huge bundle on there for like $60, and you get all of them, which is crazy. That's so many different little games.
Chilla's Art Complete Pack on Steam. It's on sale.
Yeah.
Cool.
So anyway, yeah, if you want like a kind of a short, bite-sized horror experience. Plus it's like, Japanese ghosts for some reason are just extra terrifying.
Individually, these all run like $3 to maybe $6, $8.
Yeah.
I see an $8 one, so yeah, they're pretty accessible.
Premium experience.
Right. That one has the creepiest art for it too, so maybe that's the grand finale. You save that one for the end.
Which is that one?
That is
the bathhouse.
Hanako, Hanako. Chilla's Art Hanako.
Okay.
Yeah. There's something creepy going on in that art I don't want to look at for too long.
Yeah, they're just like, they're hard to look at sometimes.
Mm.
Anyway, really good.
Cool.
Next week. What am I playing next week? I have it in my notes here somewhere. Oh, there are a couple sort of point-and-click adventure games that come very highly recommended. And you look at those, and they're like this big chunky pixel characters walking around, and you're just like, how could this possibly be scary? But we will see. We'll find out next week. Or this weekend, rather.
Cool.
So what have you been up to? You have not been playing stuff that is nearly as spooky, I think.
No, definitely not as spooky. Not at all spooky, no. Paradise Marsh is the one I've probably spent the most time with over the last week or so. Played quite a bit of this. This is a new game that is on, I believe it's on Switch and Steam right now, coming soon to other things. This is a kind of an express version of like a life sim collect-a-thon. So don't roll your eyes. It's not another farming game, I promise. But the hook here is that you start looking at sort of a sky full of constellations, and then all the stars fall from the sky, and they land in a marsh, and as do you. So you go around and start sort of cataloging, collecting all of the things in the marsh. You might find a butterfly. You might find a mysterious obelisk that sort of lights up when you go near it. And does what? Who knows? You might find an owl who recites poetry to you. And maybe the poem is a clue for other things you might be able to find in the marsh. And there is a day and night cycle that sort of moves through the proceedings here. There's a season cycle, in fact, that sort of moves through the proceedings here.
Whoa.
You'll go from like beautiful sunlight to a twilight marsh to a rainy fall evening to a snowy afternoon, in a pretty sort of brief period of time. And each of those conditions have different little critters and elements of wildlife and thing that sort of live within that quick biome. So if you're trying to catch a moth, because you've got a little book, of course, of all of these animals that you're trying to sort of like catalog. If you're trying to catch a moth, you need to find a light source, of course. So like a candle or a street light somewhere, and then you kind of have to wait for early evening. And everything is procedurally generated, so there's no map or anything like that. There's no timeline even. It's not like there's a ticking clock for you to do this stuff. It's just about sort of wandering and walking around and exploring and moving from day to night and season to season and just sort of loosely assembling some kind of like adventure from this. And then you eventually
it's generated every time you like, or for like one playthrough you're playing in the same sort of environment.
I don't know how to answer that. I'm sure. What do you mean?
Well, like you said, it's procedurally generated, so everybody who starts off the game, they have sort of a different layout of like what's around them.
I think so. I think like different things pop up under sort of the same circumstances, but you essentially start in the middle and kind of walk. You know, you sort of chart your own path. You can cross bridges. You can hop from island to island. You can actually walk through the like muck and water and stuff like that over to the nearest thing. And as you're walking around, you see things sort of like sprout up and pop in. And as you're doing this, like snow is also falling in the distance and the sun is going down. And so again, there's this sort of like convergence of events and things kind of popping into and out of the game.
So it's like constantly changing?
Yes.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. Not like at 1,000 miles an hour, fast enough that you can sort of respond to it.
But
I've
it's not like if you ever said like, oh, I need to go back to that bridge, like would it still be there if you had passed by there a while ago?
Nothing in the game seems to work that way. No. Like,
interesting.
Yeah, there may be other instances of that bridge, but I've not been able to find exactly that bridge that I had in mind from that first time I found one. So I think it's clearly reusing sort of the same assets and some of the same geography, but you know, in slightly different ways depending on how you're moving and again what time of day and what season you're in.
Yeah, that's cool. That's can't think of a game that's worked like that before.
Yeah. And all of the things, the collectathon things, all eventually turn back into the stars in the sky. So you're by sort of cataloging and inventorying everything happening in the marsh, all of those things sort of pop back up and become fun little stars in the sky that have some little element of sort of poetry and interaction to them and characterization as well. So again, it's a weird sort of collection of things. It feels like a game that sort of clearly takes inspiration from you and I have played versions of this game where you have like a sticker book and you have to collect. You know what I mean? There's like 5 different types of bird on this island. You have to take pictures of all of them. It feels very much like that kind of game. You have a net and that's it. Your entire interaction with the world for the most part is through your little bug net. But
you have to capture all of them.
To continue sort of continuously replace all the little stars in the sky. Yeah, you have to.
Okay. You
have to catch everything. Yeah. You're not actually sort of like, you know, capturing a live critter and putting it into a book. It like turns into a sticker and the sticker turns into a star. And so
sure.
Yeah. Cute little ethereal thing to it. So you can have the disconnect of not having to think that you're capturing live animals. One of the things that I really like about this is that the sort of express sort of feeling to it is that it because there's no time limitation to these things, and because there's not like a mini map and you're trying to sort of figure out like where's the best place to stand so that I can catch the butterfly when it comes tomorrow at noon. It is really just sort of about wandering around, just kind of like, let's go for a walk. Let's walk through this cool, weird marsh and see what sort of pops up. The developers have worked with Disasterpiece on not just the score and soundtrack to the game, but the entire sound design, which is really neat. So you get like dragonflies and frogs that make really cool non-dragonfly and non-frog like noises because everything is gone through like a cool like electronic synthesized treatment. So you'll hear like a weird synthesized noise somewhere on the distance and you'll see a little glowing bit just as the sun sets. And you're like, what's that glowy thing over there? And why is it making noise? And it turns out it's a new sticker that you need for your book. And so again, the game is really good at creating cool little like seemingly sort of bespoke kind of moments of like, oh, what is this thing I discovered that's happening right here? Yeah, it's fun and it's really kind of creative and it doesn't sort of bog you down with a lot of like, I don't know, the normal sort of weight that comes with like these kinds of games of like day-night cycles and like massively expansive characterizations and sort of a seemingly endless experience. Yeah, it feels kind of finite. It feels kind of like quick. It feels like a lot of the 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 micromanagey stuff that kind of happens with games like this has been taken out of it in favor of something that feels a little lighter, a little quicker, a little like kind of handcrafted to your kind of individual experience and whatever your attention span is for that moment.
I forgot if you mentioned this already, but are the like is the day and night cycle and the passage of seasons, are those also like at a regular pace, or does that just kind of happen randomly, or do they change randomly as you're wandering around?
It feels like day night kind of happens at a pace, and the seasonality sort of feels like it depends on what direction you walk in.
Okay.
So I was kind of futzing with it a little bit, and like the sun continued to set. But if I sort of walked a little bit to the right, it became sort of snowy. And like my feet were trudging through snow, but then I could quickly back out of it and get back into kind of the summer fall vibe.
Just like rewind seasons.
Essentially, yeah. I thought it's kind of neat. I was sort of reminding myself based on every video game I've ever played that like, if I come back to this exact spot later, well, maybe one, it won't quite look like this, and two, it probably won't be this exact time of day or this exact sort of period of the year or the season that it's trying to ape. So yeah, I don't know, it's kind of neat. It feels fleeting and kind of like ephemeral in a way. It was really kind of a very cool, kind of unstructured, unhurried approach to making like a little collect-a-thon video game.
Yeah, that's really cool. I was wondering when you first mentioned that there were like different seasons, like what would happen if you just realized like, oh, I've collected all the like all the creatures until next spring. Now I just have to make it through fall and winter, and there's going to be nothing for me to do, really.
Yeah. Not just walk in a different direction until you find fall again or winter again. Yeah.
What a clever way of handling it.
Yeah. Instead of, the Animal Crossing approach would be like, sorry, come back next September.
Yeah, come back in March.
Yeah. Which, I mean, don't get me wrong, I love about Animal Crossing, but it is an infinite experience. And it's
very different timeline.
Right, what Paradise Marsh is trying to achieve here.
Yeah. That's very cool.
Yeah. Everything in it has kind of a cool, chunky, kind of pixelated aesthetic. It sort of matches up nicely with the Disaster Piece soundtrack and sound design. All the little woodland creatures are kind of cutely animated. Again, kind of blocky, 16-bitty kind of looking. Very atmospheric, kind of musical. Owls and ravens and other little creatures will sort of recite poetry to you, and sometimes they sort of feel like they're like clues of things you should look for, and sometimes they just feel like, look, a nice piece of poetry. It's a weird sort of collection of things, but it feels super charming and super like labored over and clearly loved by the people who assembled it. So yeah, I liked it. I had a lot of fun with it. It was like a weird little discovery on the Switch eShop recently. I think I remember it being teased in one of the Cozy Directs a little while back. So when it kind of popped up a week or two ago on the Switch eShop, I was like, I think this feels like a game for me. It looks like a game for me.
Yeah.
I put quite a bit of time into it over the weekend. I thought it was a lot of fun.
That's cool. Yeah, it reminds me. I mean, like you said, there have been a lot of sort of wildlife observation and what do they call it? Like cataloging games that have come out.
Life sim.
But this sounds like such a. Is that required for it to be a life sim? Like, that's not really what I picture.
No, I feel like that's an element of it, though. I think maybe you're probably right. I think you say life sim, and I think it leads people more in the direction of like a Stardew Valley kind of thing, right?
Like that's what I think of, where you're doing jobs in a town or something. You're like going on errands.
I think you're right. Maybe I'm not sort of using the right label for it, I guess.
Well, I was thinking, like, just from looking at the screenshots of this, it reminded me a lot of Alba, which where you're just taking pictures of a lot of birds. And then maybe to some degree, like Pokemon Snap or Penko Park, which are more or less like wildlife observing games.
Alba was the one
very, very structured in comparison.
Came to mind quite a bit while I was playing this. And that's Alba, a wildlife adventure. That's also a very good game. I would recommend that for people, but that also has sort of the pace of something like a more traditional kind of structured, measured video game experience where,
Right.
you know, that has a very day-night thing. You live in a village with your grandparents, I think, if that was the story, right? And you have different people that you meet around town. You go to different shops and stuff like that. And yeah, there's an element of that where you're like, you have to find a bird that is only in this one place at this exact moment at this time of day and take a picture of it. And yeah, Paradise Marsh feels like an express version of that, with all of the relationship building stuff kind of cut out of it.
Yeah. Sounds very, I mean, I was going to say it's relaxing, but like all those other games were not exactly like stressing me out.
No,
but this
not at
one
all.
just feels like you said, go for a walk and, you know, change the seasons at your will or whatever.
Yeah.
Sounds very generous and sort of respectful of your time.
Yeah. Yeah. So this is called Paradise Marsh. One of the things that I thought was kind of interesting is on the Switch, when I first started playing it, I went into the settings. I always check out settings on things, and there's some fun accessibility things and some fun stuff for dealing with color blindness, which I thought was kind of cool. I don't have color blindness, but again, anything that makes it easier for more people to play your video game, I think is always sort of time well spent by a developer, and I like to call those things out. But there were some like visual tweaks you could do to this game where you could open up the field of view, and the field of view felt very sort of claustrophobic. It felt very close, and you felt very low to the ground. I'm a very short person with a big net. So I was trying to tweak the field of view to sort of bring it back a little bit so it felt a little wider. And there was also something you could do to sort of the chunkiness, the blockiness, to try to smooth some of that out. I'm like, let me poke with some of these things and see what they do on the Switch. And it basically made the game unplayable.
Oh.
Like I wasn't counting frames, but very low frame rate. Like it felt like a tank trying to turn my character around. Never mind trying to actually catch a butterfly as it flitters by, because the time between you hitting the button and actually swinging the net is going to be like a minute and a half, maybe. Completely unplayable. So I'm like, oh no, let's all go back to the default settings. So
wait, what was that options? That was not just field of view, right?
Field of view and the chunkiness of the pixelation.
Chunkiness, interesting.
Yeah. So I tried to smooth that out and make it a little less chunky, and I tried to open up the field of view, and the game did not like the two of those happening at the same time.
Oh man. Oh, it's so rare that you even get like the field of view slider on a console game, so that's kind of unusual.
It feels very built for Steam and somehow snuck into the Switch version without a lot of testing. I would strongly discourage people from futzing with that too much, because it really like, oh, I made a big mistake, let's go back and turn all that shit off. That was not a good idea. Whereas I suspect if you had a semi-decent machine or a Steam Deck, it probably would probably sort of achieve the thing that you want to on a PC, but on the Switch, it just could not handle it.
Wait, was that just a resolution slider, that second one?
I don't know. I mean, it didn't say that. It
didn't
was,
say that.
Yeah, there were 3 steps to sort of handling. I don't have my Switch in front of me, but to like smooth out some of the chunkiness of the pixelated graphics.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So that's even rarer to see in a console game. You just change the resolution.
Yeah. I mean, it feels like sort of clearly the developers had an art style in mind, and it was sort of chunky pixels. So
yeah,
the punishment for me messing with that was the game was unplayable.
Yeah. It reminded me a little bit of, what was that game? A Short Hike, where it has that pixel filter over it.
Sure.
I mean, I don't think it was quite that pixely, but that same sort of like flat shaded aesthetic.
The thing I like about A Short Hike, and you get some of this in the sort of the look, the aesthetic of Paradise Marsh as well, is that they use that sort of chunky pixely thing to sort of convey like motion. Like everything in A Short Hike is sort of like on a breeze as you're sort of walking a mountain hike and stuff like that. So they use kind of that pixely thing to you get the feeling of like your clothes are flapping in the breeze and the trees are moving and stuff like that. And the Paradise Marsh very much operates in the same way. It definitely feels sort of like everything's kind of blowing in the wind or blowing in the breeze, because all of the pixels are kind of like, a little fuzzy on the edges. It's cool.
Yeah.
I think it's
I think I see what you mean. Yeah.
It's a cool, very deliberate like art style that I think supports the world you're trying to create inside the game. And it's not just sort of like, oh, pixels are cool.
I mean, they are kind of cool.
They are cool. I don't disagree. Good pixel art is to be admired. Yeah. but it's also a very smart design choice for, I think, games like Paradise Marsh or A Short Hike. So yeah, Paradise Marsh. I like this. I'm having a good time with it. I think I have a few more things in my sticker book I need to collect. But yeah, it feels like a very kind of unguided, unhurried, little collectathon that I just feels kind of satisfying, and I like it. I like that's odd. I like it's got a weird sort of vibe to it, and there's birds and frogs reciting poetry to me and stuff like that. I just think it's kind of a cool game. Would recommend. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, it looks really cool. I might check this out.
Yeah. And the other thing I want to talk about very briefly is this game called Tinykin. This has been out for a little while now. I think it came out in August. And one of the Nintendo Directs a little while ago, they had announced, or I guess re-announced, that Pikmin 4 was a game that was in the works. And on another podcast, they were sort of talking about how exciting that was, but that it seemed like that game was very far away. And oh, by the way, if you're looking for like a game that kind of scratches the Pikmin itch, check out this game Tinykin. And it's conceptually, it's a similar thing where you're a little kind of like intrepid space explorer who is quite diminutive. And you go to sort of an average human house where everything is huge, like just climbing up on the sofa is a massive undertaking. Getting up on top of the TV stand is huge. You're trying to sort of like, I forget what the hook here was, again, very Pikmin-like, sort of fixing your ship so that you can get out of this strange place that you're in. Because it's a house, it's full of little like dust mites and bugs and other fun things that have like basically like a secret life hidden inside the nooks and crannies of this house. You work with them to like, solve your predicament, to do platforming puzzles and to move things around and to, open the front doors on the entertainment center where the TV is, because there's a whole other village inside there that you get to explore. While you're doing this, you're collecting little Tinykin, basically little bugs and little dust mites who have little specific abilities. If you collect the little red Tinykin, they're super strong and they can move things for you. If you collect the little black ones, they're explosive. You can throw them at things and they blow up and destroy things that are in your way or open up paths that weren't there before, and on and on and on. There's a bunch of different colors and things like that. And yeah, it's a tiny little creature, a tiny little person, tiny little explorer with like an army of Tinykin following him around. And you're trying to figure out sort of like how to best deploy their little abilities to help you progress. The demo is sort of an introduction and kind of a little tool set that you get, and then you get access to the entire living room of this house, and it's massive. It's really, again, you're tiny, but it's huge.
Like, so like Pikmin size.
Yeah, like Pikmin size. So there's like platforming challenges and lots of little puzzles to solve, and little societies of different bugs have popped up in different corners of the living room, and you're shuttling messages in between, and you get little missions on the way, like, oh, my brother's missing, can you find him? He might be up on top of the piano, so you have to climb on top of the piano, but how do you get up there? You have to work with your little Tinykin to solve puzzles and open up passageways, and et cetera, et cetera. So it's very much a Pikmin game.
It sounds very Pikmin-y.
Somebody's going to get sued, I think.
It's like, yeah. I mean, clearly somebody was just a fan of Pikmin.
Yes.
It's not like they're making Pikmin games every year.
And was tired of waiting for the next one, so they made the round. Yeah. It's super charming, despite it being a very clear homage to Pikmin. It's super charming. It's quite funny, actually, some of the writing and stuff like that. I love the sort of diminutive nature of it, where things that are like kind of mundane, like your couch and your sofa and the lazy boy chair and your television, like become these insurmountable obstacles to these tiny little creatures. So that's super fun. You get like these vistas where like you climb to the top of the television set and you survey everything around you, and it's just a living room. It's just but it feels like this massive accomplishment because you're such a tiny little thing. It's cool. I'm having a really, really good time with it. I played the demo, and I'm definitely going to play the full game. Because yeah, it scratched an itch I didn't know I had for a new Pikmin game. So,
are you a Pikmin fan?
I've not played tons of Pikmin games. I know I played 3. I reviewed that on the show. And I played the 3DS one, which I think most people don't like, like a platformer.
Yeah, got the Zelda 2 problem.
Right, exactly. I think that might be it, though.
Okay. All right.
I don't think I've played any of the other ones. I think I had a lot of problem with Pikmin 3 because, like, I built a little attachment to the tiny little Pikmin, and then you kill a ton of them.
Yeah.
Like,
I was going to ask, like, are there monsters that chase you in this? And then
weird...
when they eat your Tinykin, does a sad little Tinykin spirit ascend to the sky?
No, it doesn't quite feel as traumatizing as the Pikmin experience, which maybe I appreciate as well.
Would you do, like, they do get killed or something?
You just, like, yeah, the explosive ones just disappear after you use them to blow things up.
Oh, I mean, that's their job. That's why they were put on this earth.
It's not because some horrible fanged creature was chasing after them and they move too slow.
Yeah, no, that's not what I want.
No. So it takes some of the horror out of the Pikmin experience. I like the Pikmin Go game. I play quite a bit of that. I've got tons of flowers all over my city. Yeah. The Pikmin Pokemon Go, essentially. Pikmin Bloom, is that what it's called? Does that sound right?
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah. So I play quite a bit of that. So, like, I get the gist of the Pikmin thing. And I think
that's not really a traditional Pikmin game.
No, I get that. But Tinykin is very much sort of like inspired by all of those kind of hooks and conventions, but I think kind of also does its own thing. It's very much a platformer. It's not combat based. There's elements of the Pikmin games, Pikmin 3, that were quite combat focused. And there's not really any of that in Tinykin. The challenge comes from sort of being able to platform your way to the tops of these massive, architectural things that turn out to be kind of mundane household objects.
I like that it has that angle, and I find myself thinking, like, I probably would like that more than the typical Pikmin gameplay. I feel like it was a little more about puzzle solving, and there wasn't that combat element.
Yeah.
Because, it's like, first of all, I just found that to be very stressful, because I would spend so long growing my little Pikmin guys, and they would just get eaten.
Right.
But you really only had a few sort of tools at your disposal in Pikmin games, at least from what I remember. And the puzzles in those were all... It was mostly amounted to, like, get enough Pikmin to beat down this wall or whatever, or conquer this one monster that's in the way.
Yeah, and I think the elements of Pikmin that I found most overwhelming were, like, when you get to the point where you've got lots of groups of these things in different places doing different chores. And you have the ticking clock in Pikmin is always sort of the end of the day. Everything has to be back on the ship by the end of the day, or they all get eaten or left behind. So, like, it's stressful. Like, you're trying to manage, like, Team Yellow is doing one objective and trying to carry this other fruit so that everybody has food and stuff back on the ship. And Team Green is trying to, build steps so that you can get to the next level. And Team Red, meanwhile, has, a weird, like, kangaroo vampire thing chasing heads. So you're trying to manage all of those things with the ticking clock of getting everybody back on the ship by the end of the day. And so, yeah, it felt quite stressful. And I never felt that way in the first hour and a half of Tinykin. It always felt sort of like, leisurely. The challenges were there. Like, if I got annoyed with a little puzzle or an objective, just go somewhere else in the living room, go someplace, do some other thing. So yeah, it never felt like quite so oppressive. And
that's good.
Yeah, Pikmin 3 just stressed me out. And Tinykin, again, I've not played the whole game, but at least the demo of it never felt that way.
I always look back fondly on Pikmin 2. That's the only one that I've played a significant amount of. And I always think, man, it's a miracle that I actually played through that entire thing. Because just thinking about just the general design of it and how it's structured, it's not the type of game I typically enjoy. Like, it's really stressful. You're talking about you're just doing things that I don't want to do in a video game. So maybe I should play this instead.
Yeah, I would recommend it. Like I said, the demo was enough to convince me that, hey, maybe I should play the whole thing. So yeah, it's impressive, and I think as a demo, it sort of does its job nicely of getting you to say, oh, hey, I would play this whole thing.
Okay, wait a minute. Let me just take a look what these Tinykin actually look like. Okay, they're fine. They're fine.
Yeah. They're little
I was
blobs.
like,
It looks a little bit like
love
Paper
if they
Mario.
look like Pikmin.
Yeah, you have got like it's like a 3D environment, but you have like little paper cutout. Milo is your main character, and all the little Pikmin look like little bugs, little ant-sized little paper cutouts.
Yeah, they're like little eyeball guys.
Yeah.
I was just saying, like, as long as they don't look like rabbits, I'm probably on board.
No, not
like,
at all.
I don't ever need to play a game with rabbits in it.
I'm going to do that in the next couple of weeks. Actually, I'm going to play that new Mario and Rabbids game. So
I know. I saw you.
Brace yourself.
That. I was just like, I know people love those games. They look super fun, but it's just like, do I really need to subject myself to that? There's other stuff I could be doing.
The Rabbids are a big ask. I will say that this game, Tinykin, is on, I think, just about everything at this point. I played the demo on the Switch. Unfortunately, I learned about an hour in that your progress in the demo on the Switch doesn't carry over to the main game. So now if I want to buy the game on the Switch, I've got to play the whole thing over again, which is a bummer because I already put an hour or so into it. Sure. The progress in the demo only carries if you play the Steam version of it. I have also since learned that it's just on Game Pass. So if you have the Xbox Game Pass, just play it on your Xbox. And don't stress over the demo. Just play the whole game. And that way, if you like it, you could just keep playing it.
Cool.
Which is what I should have done.
Why would you play anything that's not on Game Pass?
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know why I don't have the default of checking, like, oh, I'm going to play this new game. I should see if it's on Game Pass first. Because I think, maybe 2 times out of 10, I find that, oh, yeah, that game is on there.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff on there.
I've already paid for it. I should just play it.
Well, unfortunately, it sounds like you have to play another hour of that game you like. So
yes,
too bad.
What a bummer. But yeah, I definitely will go back to this and play some more Tinykin.
Well, that's cool.
Yeah. So this was a fun, cool discovery, and I appreciate those podcasters making the connection between this and Pikmin and recommending it so enthusiastically, because I think I probably would have slept on this if I had otherwise just encountered it in the shop myself.
Yeah. Man, now I wish Pikmin 4 would just go the puzzle game route. Because, honestly, I'm probably not going to play it because I just think those games are very stressful.
Yeah,
but
it stresses me out just thinking about
it. If it was just me hanging out with 100 Pikmin and, I don't know, climbing over walls or whatever they would do instead of fighting things, they could sell me on that.
Yeah. Well, maybe check out this Tinykin game. This might be your thing.
Yeah.
So yeah. Let's wrap this up.
All right, let's wrap it up.
If you need any more video game hangover in your brain, you should follow us on Twitter at twitter.com/VGHangover. And you can always get show notes and links and tell us what you thought about this episode at VGHangover.com. We would love for you to hang out with us on Discord and chat about video games. You can get a link to that at VGHangover.com as well. And help us out. Nope, let me try that again. Please subscribe, rate, and review us on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, anywhere else you can get a podcast. And help us out by telling your friends about the show. I got a little ahead of myself.
Okay, well, that's fine. We want to give thanks again to Saria Lemus this week for our intro and outro music. You can head over to pettypanol.bandcamp.com. Check out some of our work. Also, I want to throw out a plug for myself again for a Spooky Saturday coming up this Saturday at 5 o'clock Pacific time. And I didn't say the names of the games I'll be playing this week, but those will be The Excavation of Hobbs Barrow, a point-and-click adventure game, and A Pet Shop After Dark. Looks very cute. How spooky could that be?
Seriously.
Yeah. So please tune into that. You can find that. You can watch that at twitch.tv/VGHangover. Man, I really, really want to give away the big scary moment in the radio station, but that would just ruin it for everybody. So I'm curious. I'll just leave it at that.
Maybe you can just whisper it to me after the show.
Maybe.
We'll be back next week. Until then, this is Randy Dickinson.
This is DJ Ross.
Thanks for listening to Video Game Hangover. Goodbye.
Good night.
See you.